welcome to Parents Anonymous Podcast. I'm Tal.
Hi, I'm Rupali, and we are parents of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And today we're going to be talking about colic. What is it? A lot of people talk about it, but what is it? What helps? And our experience. So stay tuned.
The views on Parents Anonymous podcast are 100% ours, crafted with love, chaos, and whatever was left of our sanity after bedtime.
All right, welcome to today's episode.
Yes, let's talk about colic. What is colic? You hear about this term that happens, and it's for newborns specifically and infants. But what is it, and what do you do, and our experience? And unfortunately, we had a pretty rough go with our firstborn, our daughter, with colic. And so we'll talk about our experience, what helped, and some of the things that we found were really helpful, some of the things that were not helpful. And let's start with, I guess, first, what is colic?
But actually, before that, speaking of firstborn, we should talk about that guy back there. Would you like to introduce him?
Yes, so firstborn, right. So that back there is Milo, our cat. He is how old?
4.5 years old?
He's over 4 years old.
Yeah, March he was born.
Yeah,
So
so
almost
we
4
had
now.
him before we had our 3 and 1-year-old. So you might see him. I'm glad that we got him actually in this episode today, but
Yeah,
and a nice
usually
yawn.
he's hiding behind us. You guys never get to see him. So we're really excited to have him here with us today.
Maybe one day when he gets more comfortable, he'll actually be up here and then you can get a closer look at him. But
Exactly.
anyways,
But yes, colic. What is it?
yeah, so the textbook definition of colic is inconsolable crying for more than 3 hours a day, for at least 3 days a week, and for at least three for at least 3 weeks, for somebody a baby that's usually around 6 weeks, and it can last up to 3 to 4 months
Mhm.
old. And it's something that babies cry up to 3 hours a day. It's normal that when they cry, you sometimes put them down, they want to be held. You try different things, and sometimes they just want to be held, or maybe they use a pacifier, things like that. But it's that inconsolable crying that lasts for more than 3 hours. So there's some babies that if you put them down in their bed or in their crib, they just keep crying
Yeah,
and they need your help.
exactly. And our daughter was that textbook example right from the get-go. So just a little background on her. She's a natural birth baby, conceived, or sorry, was born about 2.5 weeks early
Yep.
than normal. And then she weighed just shy of 5 pounds. So a small baby. And then, we're first-time parents, really didn't know much. And we expect babies to cry. But it felt like she was crying more than what a normal baby would. We just didn't know. Like it was
Yeah. She just, and she would have this cry that like she's in pain, or like it was just
very
a bad cry. It
discomforting.
was a
Yeah.
very discomforting cry. And it was obviously much harder at nighttime for us.
Hmm.
But we had like at least 3 weeks, if not a few months, of points where we would just hold her like at nighttime. And that was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so people don't really know why it happens, because babies are so complicated in some ways, because there's so much going on for them when it comes to their nervous system, their development, but also their GI system as well.
Yeah. And especially the first few weeks, they sleep a lot.
Yeah.
So you don't really, it doesn't really kick in till I would say 3 to 4 weeks
Yeah.
post birth. So like,
Yeah.
they're almost a month old, and then it just kind of starts because you're so used to them. Oh, they, you feed them, you put them down, they
They
sleep.
go to sleep.
For us, like we mentioned all the other episodes, we follow a book, and we just follow that scheduling that's in there, and that's what we stuck to it. We didn't really deviate from that. So when she started having these crying fits and like just unconsolable, especially at nighttime, it was really hard, taxing on the both of us, because during the day you're just so busy, managing, like Rapali's managing her breastfeeding and all that stuff that comes with a new mom. I was still working at the time, so trying to balance a full-time day job, and then at night I was up with her daughter. It was really tough. So like you really get in a dark place when dealing with a baby with having colic.
Yeah, and it was actually much later that we realized that it was colic
Yeah.
because again, we had it took a huge toll on us,
Hmm.
took a huge toll on us physically because we weren't getting sleep
Yeah.
and emotionally because you're so nervous and anxious about this baby that you want to care for and with this crying you're like what do I do like I thought I was doing everything right and
Hmm.
there was times I remember when Tal would because he'd be up with her all night he would be googling things he would be part of like different groups on Facebook or wherever just to try to help get answers of like what is going on with my baby and when can I get sleep.
Yeah, I was you just go through this like rabbit hole of information, and there's tons. And we've said it before in other episodes. Like, there's tons of information out there. A lot of experts or so-called experts too, and some are self-made experts, some are actual like doctors. But even doctors have varying, opinions on this. Then you get mixed up with things like GERD, which is a sort of acid reflux that some babies have, which is normal still within babies, but then you have colic. What exactly is it? Then Rapaldi mentioned that definition. So, I'm kind of like going through all that. And is there something that maybe we're doing incorrectly
Yeah.
or we could do differently? Like, it just gave me a lot more questions than answers.
Yeah, like what can I do to help this baby, but also me and us so that we can be okay and one thing to note with colic is that it's something that's temporary. It goes away on its own by the 3 to 4 month mark. We always say, Tal and I, like the first 4 months, just be gentle with yourself, like take time. After 4 months in is when things really start developing for that baby and you will get sleep again. You will start to have a regular routine
Hmm.
again because after that they really change. But it is temporary.
Yeah.
So it peaks at about 6 weeks of life and it can extend to 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
And for our daughter, it extended all the way to 4 months.
Yeah, it did. And we started looking at some of like the other interventions that we could utilize. And so at the end of the day, for me, I started to really center in on the digestive system for her, and not saying that was the cause, but I needed to get somewhere. And I found that like physically I could put her on my arm and have her on a bit of an angle and let her sleep while I was awake, obviously while I was like watching something on my phone or while she could get some sleep, and that would seem to help. So I think there was two factors to that. One is the comfort of someone holding, and a baby loves that if they
Yeah, that warmth.
that warmth. If you're following like that Cherish This First 6 Weeks book, that's obviously not recommended because you don't want a child to get used to falling asleep in your arms.
Yeah.
Um,
So we were really at a tough place because we wanted to not have her so reliant on us to fall asleep and to be held. So we were nervous because we wanted to have a life again and we wanted to be able to help her fall asleep again on her own and create these healthy sleep habits. But then you're perplexed because as soon as we would put her down, this baby, a 1 month baby that would you put her down, she would fall asleep. After the 4 weeks, 5, 6 weeks point, it's like all of that went out the window.
yeah,
So we really were confused. We're like, what is happening? Because she wouldn't fall asleep in her crib.
yeah,
She just wouldn't.
yeah,
And anytime you would put her down, she would start crying.
yeah. It
And
was
this is something
automatic.
no matter how slowly you put her down, no matter if you use a pacifier, she wouldn't have a good stretch of sleep.
Hmm.
But if we held her, she would.
Yeah,
So this is the other thing with colic that there is no one right answer to solve colic because it resolves by itself over time. That helps, right? That's comforting for me as a parent to know that now, looking back. But in that time, it was hard because we were trying to look up anything and everything that would make a difference. So we would follow some of the things in Cherish the First 6 Weeks book, but we also found some other things that were helpful because of her GI system, because of her development and that all of that.
yeah. And I think the number one important thing is take care of yourself first,
Yeah.
because again, we can reflect now on this and having two kids, being able to really assess of what we could have done differently for ourselves. And it's just like that analogy of you being in an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down. They always say put yours on first before you help anyone else, because really, if you can't help yourself, you really can't help anyone else. So I think the big thing is realizing that it's, it's normal. And if you do have any sort of hesitations or questions, by all means, seek medical advice from your pediatrician, doctor, midwife, or whoever you see, just to rule out any other causes. And you don't want anything becoming serious and stuff like that. But if you've ruled all that out and it's just the crying, well, just understand, most likely you're not doing anything incorrectly, and just maybe confide in your partner or a parent or a sibling just to get that support and don't feel like you're alone. It's
Mhm.
just part of the growth of that child, and that colic is just, you got to get through it.
Yeah, work as a team, try to communicate the best you can. And with our experience, it was important for us to communicate really well. And for me, I there was a point that I really started struggling, and that's why Tal said in the beginning that he would be up all night with our daughter and he would go to work. But before that, we were actually splitting the night. So Tal would go in for the first half, and then I would come in at 3 o'clock, and then I would be there, I think, for the rest of the night. And that was really challenging for me because I felt like I wasn't really sleeping because, again, she would just be awake. She would just be crying. As soon as I put her down, have to go back in multiple
Yeah.
times. And then eventually I would be so exhausted that I would just pick her up and have her sleep next to me. And yeah, the thoughts are going through your head like, oh my God, this is the norm now? Like, this is how she's going to be
Mm-hmm.
after 6 months or after a year, etc. So Tal kind of took responsibility because of he noticed how I was doing. He took over. So again, work as a team when it comes to colic. Colic is extremely scary, and it feels like when you're in it that is anyone else going through it? Like, what can I do about this? But we, like I said, we didn't know when we were going through this that this is what was happening.
Yeah. And you, after the fact, you find out, oh, okay, it's most likely that, right? And there's really no like test that proves or diagnoses it, but like those symptoms of the 3 hours a day for 3 or more days for 3 weeks, like that, it's there. So we can kind of like move forward into, okay, we've established there's a possibility of colic. There's the inconsolable crying. Obviously, you want to help your child, so do what you need to do. If that means picking them up, soothing them that way, right? That's the focus. You don't want them crying for too long. Obviously, there could be implications on their nervous system and all that kind of stuff. So you just want to make sure they're safe, right? That's number one. Prevent any possibility of SIDS and all that kind of stuff. So do what you got to do there. But some of the things that I started looking into for number one, again, a lot of the stuff that we started focusing in on just had to do with the digestive system itself as well, because something that we haven't mentioned yet, but we've talked about in other episodes, like our daughter was a very tough like milk drinker. She rather sleep and wasn't really interested. Again, she
Mm-hmm.
was very small too, so her body didn't have quite the demand of a maybe a bigger
Yeah.
child. So
Yeah.
we were struggling with that at the same time too, trying to get her to feed. She'd
Yeah.
fall asleep when breastfeeding.
Yeah.
um, there was those factors in that play. Uh, but for like today's episode's sake, we're focusing on the colic side. So I started looking at digestive system. When a child is born, there is a developmental phase on their digestive. Like there's the way they take that milk and break it down the stomach, intestines, all that kind of stuff. So when every single child is born, they're actually born a few months early than theoretically what they should be. So their system takes about 3 to 4 months to catch up
Yep.
to where it should be to digest that milk, have those proper enzymes, the gut bacteria, all that kind of stuff. So I started reading into probiotics, and there's a quite a few different options out there. So look for what you think works for you. There's a lot of different strains of bacteria that these companies use that are for that good gut bacteria. In our case, we started using a brand called Biogia, and they make it for adults, newborns, all the way through. Like you can use these probiotics. These particular ones don't have to be put in a fridge or cool or kept cool, so that's nice to have. And it's just simply like one dose that we're using right now is 5 drops, and it's actually mixed with vitamin D as well, which is very important for the child.
Yeah, we actually mentioned it in our top 10 baby products. So if you haven't caught that video, make sure you do that. And it is in there, and we talk about Biogia, and it is the one that we used. Before Biogia, we tried everything. We tried different gas drops. We tried gripe water.
Right.
We
Yeah.
we tried so many different things, and nothing would help. Nothing would help. We tried it all, and then eventually, because we were probably near the end of the 3.5, 4 month mark, is when we actually started using the Biogia, and we did notice that it made a difference,
Hmm.
slowly. So yeah, and so second time around with our son, we actually used it right from the get go, just to support that healthy gut
Yeah.
bacteria, and digestion.
No, exactly. So it's just trial and error, and
Yeah,
it might work, might not. And I found that after a little bit, it started to have a little bit of a difference. Like that was one thing that helped. Even at the end of the
yeah,
day, even if
that's
something
all we were
helps
hoping
like
for.
1%, I'll take it, right? And
Yeah.
that child is not feeling well or they're crying, and again, like Rapali mentioned, that cry is a very distinct cry, and it's
Mm.
as a new parent, especially, it's very uncomfortable
It's
to listen
scary.
to and scary as well. So that was very important for us to, you know, intervene as best as we could. Um, so we did, right, and we use those drops. Gripe water, it's a natural remedy as well. You can find it on the store shelves. It's got all sorts of things that folks have been using for many years at home to make this. So gripe, there's many different brands. Sometimes would help, sometimes it wouldn't. But at that point, it's natural. It's got fennel and stuff in there, so we would try that. Yeah, the other thing I started looking into, which was pediatric chiropractor,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something like not a lot of information out there on. It's a fairly new form of intervention, maybe in the last like 10 years or so. So there's very few practitioners that have that certification. So I started looking into it, and for me, the theory that I understood, and I'll just talk again in just basic terms that I know. Again, I'm not a medical professional, but for our case, we will be talking to someone soon that is a medical professional that can provide some more insight. But to me, it's the fact that again goes back to the theory of like when a child is born, their digestive system is underdeveloped, and either a natural birth or a C-section birth, there's a lot of pressure on that spine, which our spine carries a channel of nerves that actually go from our brain to our stomach to our intestines, and they're a highway of signals. So what's happened is, as a newborn comes to life, there is a little bit of a disconnect of those signals due to just again the spine being out of alignment. So then when I started looking into it, reading into it, I started talking to Rapali about it, and she's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not like an adult chiropractic session where you guys have probably all seen those videos. There's Dr. B, he's a chiropractor that works on celebrities and doing all those cracks and pulling the neck and doing all that kind of cool stuff. But no, it's not like that for babies. It's just an application of a very small amount of pressure. Again, I'm not going to go too much into that part because I'll let that professional speak for themselves and what they do. But yeah, like I remember bringing it to you about this form of intervention that I found online, and
Yeah,
yeah.
and we found it helped. And I think in the beginning there was an assessment, and then slowly, as the sessions would happen, the treatment would happen, we noticed that she would be a little bit more comfortable.
Hmm.
We noticed that after each treatment that she would just relax a little bit more because of that arched back she would always have. So that's something that we found to be helpful and interesting. Side note, both of our kids, still get regular chiropractic treatments now. And like our oldest, our daughter, she's been getting it for 3.5 years. So,
Yeah, go and I in this practice that we go to, you see like full families of these kids that are almost in their teens or in teens, and they still see
mhm.
this practitioner that we'll all get to meet soon here. But the thing is, like between the probiotics and the chiropractor for our son, our second born, we kind of started that
Early.
program in really early. I think as early as like about 4 weeks, they say that you can start chiropractor. It might even be different now. Again, we'll speak to the expert about that. But we found that we weren't dealing with the same.
No, our son had a much better, no colic,
Yeah, no colic.
very few, if any, digestion issues,
Yeah,
and he did quite well.
yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that we forgot to kind of mention actually with the colic too, that you have the crying and stuff, but at the same time you're dealing with another issue of spit ups. Every baby's gonna spit up. You'll learn as a new parent that burping is like the number one skill to
Yeah.
acquire as a new parent, because if you can get them to burp, all that kind of stuff, you let that air out, because again their system's underdeveloped and they have an issue. We can burp and we have no problem, right? Releasing gas and air, and that's how we function. But for babies, it's a very hard skill, and us as parents helping them.
Yeah.
Our daughter was having a lot of spit ups, like
More than
all more than
usual.
usual. And
Yeah.
again, as a new parent, get used to it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be changing your shirts, their clothing. It
Yeah.
happens.
And I'll just correct you there because colic has nothing to do with spit ups,
No,
right?
I
So
think
so
it's yeah,
GERD, yeah,
yeah,
GERD, yes, and spit ups is kind of one thing, right?
yeah.
And the GI system, but you may have that
Yes,
regardless. You might have colic plus spit ups.
and that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
We were dealing with both at the same
Yes.
time. So like
Yes.
so we had to tackle
Yeah. She
both.
wasn't necessarily throwing up,
No.
but she did have more than usual amount of spit
Yeah,
ups.
and we'd wait
Definitely.
so they recommend 15 minutes of burping. We would wait longer than that, and it was still happening. So I think with our chiropractor treatments, it was helping the colic, but also the spit ups. And we found with our son, the spit ups like tapered off like really
Very
quick.
quickly. Yeah. And for some of the things that we tried that didn't work, we tried a wedge under the mattress, didn't help. We tried, like I said, different types of drops, like oval drops, gas drops, gripe water.
Hmm.
Sometimes would or wouldn't help. Pacifier would help temporarily for soothing, but not necessarily in general. Like she wouldn't stay asleep or be completely comfortable. So, and I don't know if there was anything else.
Yeah, that's I would do the what do you call it? Like the leg exercise, like you push the legs
Push
in,
gas out,
push
go
the gas
out.
out.
Yeah.
You put your thumbs on their balls of their feet, and you kind of push in, release some gas there. But again, very minimal relief.
Yeah. You would do a few specific holds, but it would just be temporary relief. But the two things that we found the most helpful is definitely the chiropractor and the Biogia.
Yeah,
The two things that we saw made a significant difference. And then by the 4.5 month mark, it was slowly developing for her. And
yeah,
then she was slowly able to get back into her norm in the way that she was digesting well. She was
yeah,
drinking milk better. She was sleeping better. So then really we were out of the dark. But it felt like for a long time, for a few months there, that we had that dark
yeah,
cloud over us.
yeah. It gets better, and then it gets worse again with the sleep regression at the 4 month mark. But
Yep.
that's usually
Save that for another
that's more of
day.
a daytime thing. It's easier. But yeah, getting to the
Yeah.
colic and that dark storm is a tough one.
Yeah. And know if you're listening to this and you're going through that, or if you do have a newborn, or maybe you've already have a child and it's something that happened to you, it's you're not alone. It happens to some of us. It's important to talk about. It's important to know that there's no one right answer. It's all trial and error, and it's temporary. So all those things, we hope that for you listening to our experience helps, and that's what we're here for, is to talk about our experience and to help parents feel like they're not alone, and they can talk about different things that you go through, which sometimes it does feel very lonely when you're in that moment, that is somebody else going through this or has somebody else gone through this. And when you have somebody else that you can listen to or you can relate to, it makes a difference.
100%. And I know in the recent while, we've recommended both those things to folks that are in our circle, and they've actually taken on both. They've done some sort of digestive drops, probiotics, and actually seen other practitioners. But then they start using the same practitioner as the one that we use, which you guys all get to meet. And I haven't really heard of like colic type symptoms
Mhm.
and spit ups were happening, and then all of a sudden they kind of tapered off after they started
Yeah.
using the chiropractor and all that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So a sneak peek into our next episode. We
yeah,
will have a special guest, and we're so excited for our first special guest to join us next week. So please stay tuned for that. And if you have any experiences that you want to share with us, any questions, comments, whatever, send us an email, send us a DM. We'd love to hear from you guys.
yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next week on location somewhere. Actually, so we're not going to be coming from our comfy couch. We'll be coming from a different place. So looking forward to that.
All right. Thanks,
All
guys.
right,
That's a
thanks.
wrap. Bye.
Bye.